This is the Outspoken Engineer. My name is Jacob, and I want to go for a short video why I think you should not have an air source heat pump installed in your home in 2025. This video is specifically for homeowners looking for retrofit in 2025. I believe that we should look at 2026 for a few simple factors. Let's go through them factors. On the Outspoken Engineer, we love heat pumps. Specifically, air-to-air is our favourite. But air-to-water, residentially, we've always sat on the fence. However, over the last 12 months, we've slowly, we've agreed that this is the solution for the future. And retrospectively, I believe that in 2026, there is going to be a saving. 25 to 40%, I believe, is likely. So let's get to the questions and let's get to the answers. Heat pump adoption. The question in relation to heat pump adoption is how do we get the UK to adopt the heat pump narrative? Because at the end of the day, those that have gas boilers in their houses are going to have to pay more to have an air source heat pump installed. Whereas to have a gas boiler replaced, it's around 2/3 cheaper, even sometimes a third cheaper, and it's actually cheaper to run. Gas is still cheaper than electricity. So the adoption rate in the UK, there is a direct correlation in the UK and also around the world to electricity prices versus heat pump adoption rates. China is an energy-rich country, and 2024 data suggests that per kilowatt is around 7.8 cents, which is around 6p. So China are paying around 6p a kilowatt, and that directly reflects the cost of the installation. The USA, we're looking at about 8.2p per kilowatt. Japan, 8p a kilowatt. Norway is the interesting one. So Norway has the highest adoption rate of air source heat pumps, but they are currently going through an energy crisis where they're paying £1.28 a kilowatt, which is crazy. Google it. Norway energy crisis or Norway energy, and you'll see there is a big political issue at the moment where everyone is on electric and they're all struggling to live, or there's uproar because people are struggling to pay for electricity because of the costs have gone up significantly. Let's call it bad policy. However, we need to factor this in. Looking at this, Norway has led the way with 2/3 heat pumps, okay? And it's clear that the top two, China and the USA, the adoption rate is higher because the installation cost is cheaper. Several providers in the UK are slowly clicking onto this. Just to name a few, Ideal and Octopus, OVO, they're all being very smart now because they're all pushing for heat pump tariffs. And these heat pump tariffs are allowing clients to store energy overnight, buying it cheaper, thus a cheaper rate to run their heat pump. That's something which is really important, and what I believe in 2025, it's going to get even better. To get this adoption rate higher, the energy providers know that the only way of getting mass adoption is by having cheaper energy. In 2022, the rate of air source heat pump installations were around 50 to 60,000 in the UK. The government has set 60,000 a year by 2028. I just can't see it happening. I really, really can't. Especially with electricity being the cost it is. To achieve this, an estimated 35 to 45,000 installers are required. I just can't see it happen in the next 3 to 4 years. So, how can they get this figure up? Well, the installation, having installers to do the installation more effectively is one option. Secondly, driving costs down so significant that the gas boiler companies and all the heating engineers do actually sit down and say, well, the cost of a heat pump is almost the same as a gas boiler now. I'm going to make the switch. And I think that's where the market is going, but it's nowhere near there. Gas boiler manufacturers are obliged to produce sustainable products to offset fines and other issues relating to installing and supplying gas boilers. They need to decarbonise. That pressure is only going to mount further. In 24, we've seen the adoption from the likes of Ideal. They're one I want to mention. Ideal, they're known for fantastic boilers. They're now really pushing the air source heat pump side of things for homes. So we can see where it's going. But getting up to 600,000 installs a year is going to be a massive challenge. Having better and quicker ways and innovation to install things quicker is a way of doing it, 100%. But that rate will be unprecedented. However, knock off 30% of your energy costs, and you'll probably find the adoption rate will increase significantly. Octopus, E.ON, EDF, and OVO, they all have reduced rate tariffs. Check them all out, and you'll see that there is energy reductions for air source heat pumps, but you do need to offset versus the installation costs. My point is heat pump production is at an all-time high. I know this. It's been pushed massively by the EU directive. They've told air source heat pump companies and brands to make, but they can't install these things. And you've only got to look at heat pump production. If you don't want to believe me, just Google heat pump production. You'll find Valent last year unveiled a multi-million-pound production line in the UK. Ideal has done its first heat pump production line in the UK, and Octopus is producing in the UK. And they've gone away from just supplying the Altherma, and they've got their lovely cosy units, which are made in the UK, which is brilliant for manufacturing in the UK, which we're all for. You tie these along with other 20 Chinese brands and 20 Japanese brands, which have all been pushing the heat pump production, and I mean they've been pumping these units, but they can't be installed quick enough. So, what we know is having a slow adoption rate, having a lack of demand, but having high stock, what that means is this year we are going to see a massive reduction in the cost of these heat pumps. They need to shift them off the shelves, and if they don't, it costs them money. If you don't believe me, go and ask the right questions to the right people. We know this is the case. We're actually seeing this in air-to-air heat pumps. Where there has been a slight decline over the last 2 years in residential sales, we've seen costs coming down in certain elements of the market. What this means for you, a recent conversation with Graham Hendra, who is a heat pump guru. He's been there, done that, wore a t-shirt. He's seen it all over the last 20 years. And TJ Root, he's from Octopus. What we found is both of them are pushing for air source heat pump costs to be lower. We know that the costs have grown significantly, and we also know that people have been making hay while the sun is shining. As we say in business, it's the race to the bottom, but it shouldn't be seen as that. It's opening up capitalism and enabling people to compete more because there is more stock. This is going to reduce costs. Where you've got people in the market consciously trying to reduce the installation cost. So what I mean is, if you've got a £7,500 bus grant and you've got air source heat pump companies installing these for £7,500 and below, you'll be paying zero. Personally, I think the bus grant should go. It's government interference. I believe that they should just remove it completely, and they should let energy companies, installation companies fight it out for a base price. When the adoption rate drops lower because the costs are high, costs will be forced to come down. And at the end of the day, if you want a decarbonisation, and it's quite clear that gas is now being slowly removed from the UK, I think that we've never had it in aircon. We've never had. Do I want government? If the government starts putting in £5,000-7,000 bus grants into the air-to-air industry, unfortunately, that is going to mean our costs are going to increase because the paperwork side of things is always a bit tough. So last year, the big players out there had suggested that they're looking at reducing air source heat pump costs. In 2025, they're only going to look at doing that further because they're all growing. They've got the air source heat pump installers. We've got loads of stock that needs shifting. Costs will come down. 2025, I think they're going to stay consistent to where they are, but towards the end of the year, with the additional stock that is on the shelves, you're going to see 2026 being around 25 to 35% cheaper than it is at the moment. Energy this year is going to be around 1 to 3% higher than it was last year. That is going to affect the adoption rate. However, if air source heat pump installation costs are lower, it will not affect it. The key in this is electricity cost correlated to the air source heat pump installation cost. How would anyone in their right mind is going to install an air source heat pump when the cost of electricity is 3 to 4 times the price of gas, plus the installation is higher? It'll just never happen. However, if the installation cost with a bus grant is around zero, or is between £3,000 to £5,000 without a bus grant, and electricity is 2 to 3 times the cost of gas, that will That will create a mass adoption rate, and that is what the market needs. Is it going to happen this year? I personally can't see it happening, but what I can see in 2026, lots of stock, R290 stock, R32 stock, which has been sitting there for some time that hasn't been installed, people are going to be able to buy this stuff at a significantly cheaper rate. If you would have watched the video where we sat down with Graham Hendry, you will see that we discussed the cost of an air source heat pump installation, and he actually goes through the reduction in cost and parts that aren't really required. Well, that is actually being carried out now, and it's reducing the cost in homes. Just to close, many air source heat pump providers are looking at driving the installation costs down this year. And what that means for you is that it'll be cheaper to have an air source heat pump installed. At the moment, it's not. There seems to be a bit of a settlement between them, but I believe with the slower adoption rate this year, 2026 is the perfect time to have a retrofit air source heat pump installed into your home. Although this is all my opinion, and I'm using statistics and I'm using industry knowledge, if you don't agree with me, put it in the comments below. I'm always open for a debate, and I'm always open to learn more from people in the industry or people who have a different point of view. I'm Jacob from the Outspoken Engineer channel. See you on the next one.